Welcome to Southside Sox Hangout, as this is the place where Sox fans that go to SouthsideSox.com come to chat about the recent happenings with their beloved Chicago White Sox. I'm Slider Nelson, and joining me this week on Southside Sox Hangout is, of course, my partner in crime as far as getting this podcast off the ground, Hazy Mania. Hazy, how you doing?
I'm here for you, Slider. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. We're
Keeping
going
keeping
through.
keeping keeping warm out there.
Well, I was just going to say that we are going through our second polar vortex. Today is Monday, as far as January 27th, and it's going to be colder tomorrow. I hear they've already canceled school. They canceled school halfway through today in the Chicago public schools. Which, growing up in Wisconsin, I think in my entire time from second grade to when I graduated college, that only had 5 snow days ever.
Well, you guys up there are made of just truly hardy stuff. Packing they pack you into those schools, and they just they just must be more prepared for it up in the Arctic North than we are down here on the south side of the lake.
I guess now they are. Poor Wisconsin teachers are whipped to death and being prepared to work 7 days a week because they are union. Whatever. Let's not get into politics. As this week we have quite a bit to actually chat about. That's something you rarely hear as far as in January if you're a White Sox fan. But this past weekend was SoxFest. Hazy and I will talk about the happenings there, specifically in the Q&A, because the big news coming out of SoxFest that was announced on Friday is that Rick Hahn has given Robin Ventura a contract extension. Now, this isn't the first time we heard this. We heard this prior to last season as well. But unlike last season, this time Robin Ventura accepts it. It's a multi-year deal. The final details of the contract have not been announced or disclosed, so we don't know exactly how many more years that Robin Ventura is slated to be the manager of the Chicago White Sox. As far as reactions, there are some that are, you know what, not a big deal. I guess why not extend him? This team is in transition, so instead of just having a lame duck manager, make sure that he's on there so he feels comfortable and the young guys feel comfortable. And then there's some on the other side of the fence to be like, well, wait a second. If we're going to make this transition, how do we know for sure that Robin Ventura is the guy? So, Hazy, let's start there. What are your feelings about Robin Ventura getting the contract extension?
Well, at first I was kind of leery about it, and it stunk to me like another kind of Han's hand being forced into it by Uncle Jerry, saying that this is the guy that I want in this position. Where the team's not in a position to contend yet. But as we'll discuss here in a few minutes, when a fan at SoxFest kind of started to question Ventura's passion a little bit, Han was quick to jump to his defense, and I don't want to steal the next bit's thunder at all, but that kind of that's kind of got me thinking a little bit more that I'm kind of on a I'm willing to give it a chance sort of position now, because I think that managing the team that the White Sox have been, kind of a vet heavy team that was built to contend now, versus this young up and coming team with a lot of young parts that are malleable and kind of the opportunity for him to really be a coach as opposed to a manager. I think that I think I'd like to see what he's able to do, and I do agree that there's something to be said about removing kind of that lame duck status, so that these guys that are coming up with him know that he's going to, as long as he doesn't suck, that he's going to be their guy. He's going to, they'll feel that they can go to him with questions, and probably feel more comfortable about going to taking what he's teaching them to heart, because they know that he's their guy. He's going to be their guy, this season. He's going to be their guy next season, and as long as they don't suck, he's going to be their guy moving forward. So I think I'm firmly in the why not camp at this point.
For me, so I understand that it brings stability, and during this entire process, I've had a very difficult time as far as explaining my viewpoint because I don't necessarily agree with it. If there's anyone out there, and it's kind of weird to say this, but Dan Bernstein from Boers and Bernstein wrote a column on Saturday about Rick Hahn sending mixed messages. He doesn't really get as far as here's the juicy detail, and I think this explains where my thinking is. And I quote, "And last year was beyond just bad. The Sox were sloppy and dumb, and rather than fixing their problems, they only got sloppier and dumber in the field, on the base paths, and in the batter's box. Some of the culprits in the wheels-off failure are gone, replaced by more sensible, athletic, and professional players. But there are still guilty parties remaining." And that really describes as far as 2013. And there are still some guilty parties that were responsible for the sloppy and the dumb play on the field. We bring it up all the time. If you go to the comments section today and you start arguing about Alejandro Diaz, there is a split right down the middle for White Sox fans. There are guys that say, "Guys, stop it. He's our third best offensive player." And there are guys on the other side of the fence that said, "Yeah, congratulations. You get on base and you do a fantastic job of getting yourself out on the base paths. Too much risk, not enough reward." That's an example. But Robin Ventura could be that guilty party. Here's a stat for you, Hazy, and I know people love numbers. Since the great collapse of September in 2012, where the Chicago White Sox entered the final month 72-59 in first place, since then, the White Sox are 76-117. The winning percentage since September of 2012 is .394. This cliff dive, or I should say nosedive, didn't start with opening day of 2013. It started in September of 2012. And perhaps with the thinking going to 2013 was, man, we really had it. We blew it. If the season was 150 games, we would have been in the playoffs. And they started slow, and then they continued the poor play throughout the entire season. And, Robin, out of all of his quotes as far as SoxFest, and you know what, Hazy, I don't mind going into it now. One of the things, and if you haven't had the chance, Sox fans, if you go to SouthsideSox.com, I put in the fan post, I have transcribed it. He does a very good job explaining as far as going to this season. As a fan asks what he has to do to gain credibility in the clubhouse, what guts from that fan. And Ventura says, if guys want to come in and think about last year, they can think about last year. From the middle of the year on, we are gradually getting ourselves to think about 2014. From the end of the year and the off season, we have very different people here. So we are going to 2014 to think about how we're going to play in 2014. That's fantastic. But going into as far as a contract extension, I think it's premature. The White Sox, I do not know if they can respond to Ventura. I just don't know, Hazy, if they can. And I guess we're going to find out if they do. But if 2014 is just a repeat of 2013, you're going to have a lot of fans going to SoxFest next season. Their target is going to be on Rick Hahn, not Ventura. They're going to ignore Robin Ventura and be like, "Rick, what in the world were you thinking giving Ventura an extension?"
Well, I mean, I think time will tell. You've turned over what you've a solid 40%, more, almost half of the roster at least. Is this a question of Kenny's guys versus Rick's guys? Purging the old and replacing it with the new. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys that were playing questionable defense, at times last year, are remain on the roster, but there's a lot of growing pains that go into learning the managerial position, and I have faith personally in Han's ability as a judge of talent and a judge of character. And I don't know, wait and see. That's my 2 cents. You bring up a lot of great points, and I'm hard pressed to argue with any of them. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I guess I'm not willing to close the door and throw it out based on a bad season where Ventura played his part. I have no doubt that Ventura played his part. And P. Knowles, God rest his soul, not with us tonight, staring at a computer screen somewhere, crunching numbers. I believe it was him in the comments that pointed out, there's only so much, there's only so much variance that a manager can truly bring to, as far as wins created and wins lost over the course of a season. And granted, it was like 3 or 4 wins, I think, but and that's no small number, for a team that, if it's the difference between 85 wins and 89 wins, that's a playoff playoff spot in the American League, without a doubt. But I guess I'm not willing to write it off yet, given the changing demeanor of the team itself. So I would say, we're going to agree to disagree on this one, but I don't completely disagree, if that makes any sense.
Sure. I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the whole in-game decision making, 3 to 4 games over 162 game season is, it's a very small percentage of impact that the manager has. I think it goes into mentality though. Prior to the season, they went to a nosedive. You want to use 3 to 4 games of impact that a manager will have. Well, the White Sox really could have used that in 2012, those 3 to 4 games, and having a rookie manager being that, situation for the first time, perhaps was too much to ask for Ventura and the veterans on the team, such as Paul Konerko and Matt Thornton. Guys who have been to the playoffs before, in Konerko's case, been to the World Series, really should have stepped up and try to help motivate the team to get them, over the hump and into the playoffs. That didn't happen. And going to 2013, like I mentioned, I just think that nosedive in 2012 extended into 2013, and they just started off on the wrong foot. Like they were trying to prove themselves, try to amp them up. Man, we missed this opportunity, but we're not going to miss it in 2013. Well, they missed it by a lot. So the 3 to 4 games for Ventura, as far as in-game decision making, would have not made a difference. However, it's all about going into the season. So I am willing to give him a clean slate going to 2014, and new mentality. It really is, hey guys, it cannot get any worse than last year. So let's take that pressure off our shoulders now. We're starting from the very bottom. Let's see how far we can get to the top. But when it comes to the contract extension, I would have liked to seen him under some pressure, because he's already failed once under pressure as a manager, and I needed to see that. I wanted to see that again, to see how he would react, not necessarily having a guaranteed job after the year, and try to prove it. Now it really feels like a college football program. This team is rebuilding. Here is the timeline. And as far as personnel, we're not going to rock the boat. This is who we're going with. We will, be successful with Robin Ventura as a manager, or we're going to sink with Robin Ventura as the manager. So time will tell. Time will tell. But I think that, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I do think that brings up a good point, though. If this doesn't work, then you do run the risk of wasting some pretty significant primes that this team has been built and constructed around. I mean, you're talking about the prime of Chris Sale. You're talking about the prime of Abreu, and I mean those are on either side of the team. Be it pitching or the lineup. Those are those are the pieces that you're building your team around. And if you're blowing that because of your managerial decision, then yeah, that's going to cost some people some jobs without a doubt. I mean, but besides just Ventura, you're talking. You can say that Han is really kind of throwing a lot of his eggs into the Robin Ventura basket, because I mean, I don't, it's hard to say, because Reinsdorf has been extremely loyal to his guys in the past. Maybe Han gets another chance if this doesn't work out, but
I don't think his job is on
skeptical.
the line though with Ventura.
If Ventura kind of blows it, it could. I mean, because if he blows it, he's going to be. I mean, you're talking about the franchise and Chris Sale and one of the largest. Abreu was the largest contract in team history, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, you're talking about the two of the biggest commitments financially in team history, and if he blows their primes, then who knows who knows how this team will or won't be able to rebound.
Right. And okay, so I see where you're coming from, Hazy. I do want to chat about some of the stuff from SoxFest, because it was very telling on how Rick Hahn was setting this up. All of us know corporate America. And if you know the corporate America setting, there are the leaders there that do put their eggs in one basket. If that basket succeeds, man, they're looking straight for promotion. If that basket fails, they are packing up their desk with you, and they're going to be let go. Han seems to, I know you're saying he's put all of his eggs in the Robin Ventura basket. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he's got 2 eggs he puts in the Robin Ventura basket. Here you go, Robin. You have some of my attention. I think what he's really building his job around, and that will keep him safe, is this investment back into scouting, back into amateur drafting, back into international spending, really stabilizing that section of the organization, because he's a farmer. Kenny Williams was a hunter. Williams went out, found his guy, got his guy. That's not Han. Han is a farmer. Sure, he can do some hunting when he's got an attractive trade piece and he can gain someone else, as in such as Avisail Garcia. He gave up Jake Peavy for that, but he had to work out a 3-team trade with Detroit at the same time. And Detroit has their shortstop, unfortunately, for the many years to come, so everyone benefited from that. And trading Hector Santiago to Arizona, and also Addison Reed in exchange for Adam Eaton, who will start in center field, and Matt Davidson, a good chance he may start at third this year. But, going back to my point, Rick Hahn is a farmer, and I think that is his foundation as his general manager. If Ventura were to fail, he can go to Jerry and say, listen, Robin may not be the guy. I'm going to find someone, because we have all this talent stockpiled, and look at all this potential, Jerry. Look at all these guys. Look at all these guys in Baseball America Top 100. This is the new core. This is your Alex Fernandez, Jack McDowell, Frank Thomas in late 80s that will take us to the next decade and be successful for many years to come. And Jerry will look at that and be like, Rick, you have done an awesome job. Yeah, unfortunately, Robin's not fit for the job. How about you go find a new manager? So Rick Hahn's job is not tied to the success of Robin Ventura. Robin is out on his own, because Rick, being the corporate guy, is covering his ass. If that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Rick Hahn is the perfect corporate guy, and he'll be fine. I just thought it was a little premature, but you know what? He offered it after the 2012 season. I guess this may sound crazy, and I'm probably wrong, but I thought that made more sense to offer him a contract extension after that year than after 2013.
Well, I mean, it could be a question of, was he the right, going in looking back on it, was he the right manager for that, for that team of veterans? Maybe, and maybe not, because after September of 12, the team started to fall apart, and he wasn't able to kind of pull them back in and last year everything just kind of fell apart. So if he's not a manager for a team of veterans, maybe he's cut out for the coaching part of it with a cast of young guys. It remains to be seen, but I'm excited to see how it's going to go down. Absolutely, 100%.
Because February 20th, first day of spring training is coming up very soon. Pitchers and catchers are going to report very soon. So there's not a whole lot of time left. And so let's roll over to the next segment, SoxFest. Have you ever gone, Hazy?
Never had the pleasure.
Okay.
Always wanted to. Haven't been able to yet, though.
So this was my first time going to SoxFest. And for those that have been there, you know the story, you know the drill. For those that haven't, it's always in late January. It seems like it's always at the Palmer House, or it's been at the Palmer House for the last couple of years. And their pitch is it's an opportunity for Sox fans to come, meet their favorite players, hear their stories, learn about the insights of how the team is getting ready for the upcoming season. Hazy, were you ever a big, did you collect baseball cards when you were younger?
Absolutely, I did.
Do you know card shows as far as that setting where you would go and there'd be many vendors selling baseball cards, and that's where you can get your packs of cards?
Yes.
Some of those card shows have guys signing autographs. So you can stand in line, you could bring your old Sports Illustrated or your cards, and they would sign them for a fee.
Yep.
This is a glorified card show. The seminars are very cool. If you want to go so you can hear Rick Hahn and Robin Ventura and the players talk about the game, it's worth the price of admission. Admission for a day, Saturday or Sunday, is $50 per person. Admission for both days is $75. And then for the 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you got to get a hotel room. So it's quite a bit more. And then there's the VIP experience, which I'll get into that in a second. But that, I ended up getting Alexei Ramirez's autograph, Nate Jones's autograph, because nobody was in line and wanted his autograph. And he's probably going to be the closer this year, which is just kind of funny. I got Gordon Beckham's autograph. And I think that's it. Yeah, that is it. I got 3 guys to autograph because you end up standing in line forever. I did see Ken Woe. I was stuck in the line waiting to get Avisail Garcia's and Diane Vicieto's autograph. They were signing side by side. But it was about 15 minutes before the Rick Hahn and Robin Ventura, so I had to get out of line, but I was stuck in the middle. And then I could tell it was Ken Woe because he was the only guy wearing shorts at the convention. And, they do have them, they got, card dealers all over the place that are selling cards. My girlfriend came along with me. She's a big Robbie Gold fan, so I was able to find a Robbie Gold autograph for $12. So that made her happy.
At SoxFest?
Yeah, at SoxFest. You can. It's just a big card show. If you know card shows and you know what it's like when they have athletes there to sign autographs, it's the same setting with the exception of the seminars, and that's really where the price of admission is. It's not for you to, if you want to go to SoxFest, in all seriousness, you want to take your picture with Frank Thomas and Paul Konerko, I'd love to do that. My recommendation would be to pony up the extra bucks and get the VIP experience because that's guaranteed. You are guaranteed to get everyone's autograph and also get a picture with all those guys. Yeah.
What can I, if I could jump in, is it,
sure.
Would you, now I'm not a big autograph guy. And I'm not trying to imply anything about people that are autograph guys, but would you say it's geared towards younger fans then? I mean, because in my eyes, getting an autograph is kind of something that for me that was I was more excited about when I was when I was a little bit younger. But I mean, if that's your thing, then I don't think any less of anybody for that. But
right.
But what would you say was the kind of the attendance from kids and younger people?
So I went on Saturday. There were quite a few kids. And they were with their dads. it's a total father-son, father-daughter type of experience. There were still quite a bit of older guys there that you knew they were collectors.
Yeah.
They're autograph seekers still, because they were prepared. Wow. People brought folding chairs. They brought hunting buckets where it's a seat on top, and then you open it up, and they had like Doritos, they had beer, they had soda, they had water, and then they had their cards, their bats, and their baseballs. So yeah, there's a ton of autograph seekers, and if you want to spend $50 and stand in line to get people's autographs, you're going to get bored. You just are. So that's why I recommend that you actually pony up the extra bucks and do the VIP. So the premium is what they call it. So you can actually get some other memories of, hey, I got my picture taken with Frank Thomas. How cool is that? And then you can also go to the seminars. If you are a true baseball fan and you love when people are talking baseball and you just want to sit in the room and listen to people talk about the game, that's the best part of SoxFest, is the seminar room. Avoid the autographs. Because you ended up waiting in line for an hour to get Gordon Beckham's autograph. And I looked at my girlfriend like, there's a good chance he may not be on the White Sox after this season.
Good chance he might not be on the White Sox by the end of February.
Well, I mean, right. You know what, though? He was very approachable. Actually, my question to him, because you only get about 15 seconds when you're up there, was, Gordon, how do you feel coming to this season? And he said, I feel a hell of a lot better than last year. That was
Didn't
intriguing.
he say that before last year? So
I think he says that every year, right? Nate Jones, my question to him was, hey, buddy, are you going to be our closer opening day? And he said, well, it's going to be a competition between me, Lindstrom, and Belisario. So let's start there with SoxFest and my one question interview with Nate Jones when it comes to closer, because that question was brought up. And Ventura is quoted saying that, I don't think it's a problem to have competition in that role. We have a few spots where there is going to be some competition. We are going to put guys in spots and move them around, which is totally Ventura-esque. We knew as far as the closer role as of right now was going to be between Nate Jones and Matt Lindstrom, with probably Matt Lindstrom getting the edge because he's got the experience. But what about the new guy, Belisario, with Nate Jones dropping some inside information?
I was surprised to hear that name come up as well. I kind of pictured him as kind of a little bit more of a role guy, as in that kind of that seventh, eighth inning setup kind of situational kind of guy. So it's a little bit surprising to hear Jones dropping that name. I mean, he could have just been in need of a third name to add to the mix, and it was alphabetically he was the first one that came up. I don't know, but no, I mean, if that ends up being the case, that's interesting. And I mean, there could be some potential in there for kind of a closer by committee sort of situation as well, which I'm not personally against. I never been real big on the mindset of there has to be one guy that always comes in and gets the hyped up new metal song playing while he's walking in from the left field bullpen and gets everybody hyped up, coming out throwing 102 miles an hour, intimidating guys stuff with his. Some people love that stuff. I don't know.
All right.
I'd rather have the right guy. Rather have the right guy in the right situation, and if that means if that means playing matchups, then so be it. I don't care for the theatrics or the drama that comes with that ninth inning guy. Just give me the best guy out there that has the best chance of getting a guy out. If that means it's then the matchup isn't there because you have a guy that dominant. That's fine, but you say the names Lindstrom and Nate Jones, and none of those guys strike me as super dominant guys. Mm-hmm. So why not just throw the best guy out there? You're platooning, you've got a potential platoon in left field. You have a platoon at DH. You might have a platoon at third base. Why not have a platoon at the back end of the bullpen too? It's a season to figure that kind of stuff out.
Right, and we know saves are overrated. right? We know that
100%. Yeah.
The closers just don't last that long. They have a very short shelf life. I mean, the data really backs that up. There is no foreseeable future the next Mariano Rivera, a guy over many years, reliable, sometimes unhittable closer that comes in and shuts you down. It just doesn't exist anymore. That's why Addison Reed was expendable. And I could tell from that 15 seconds, I know it's not a lot, but I got the impression that Nate really wants this job. He really wants the closer role. So that's one area that I'm kind of excited to see what that competition will turn out to be. Personally, I'm in the boat of you don't want Lindstrom to be the closer because teams are going to ask about him during the year. And because he's a quote-unquote closer, it's going to be a higher price, or at least that preconceived notion that White Sox are going to ask for a higher price for Lindstrom. So rather just have him be a setup guy so he's an easier target to move. I mean, that's my 2 cents on the topic. But what are we talking about? We're talking about guys trying to close games, and we have a very hard time getting leads in the first place. So,
absolutely.
So we're gonna play a little game. The game is going to be SoxFest Q&A. Hazy, you are going to put on the cap of Robin Ventura or Rick Hahn. I'm going to ask you the question that was literally asked from the fans, and I'd love to get as far as your reaction, depending on which hat that you're wearing. All right, are you ready?
Oh yeah, go ahead. What you got?
Okay. First off, you're Rick Hahn, and I'm the fan.
Okay.
Rick, I got a question that might not set well. Why is AJ still not our catcher?
I'm glad you asked that question, young man. Do you know how old AJ Pierzynski is?
Nope.
Well, let's see. You look like you're about 12, so I'm going to say he's older than your dad. So next question.
That's actually pretty good. That's pretty good. The best quote, the zinger from Hahn was, "Now, we still would have lost far too many games even if we had AJ last year. That wasn't going to change." Oh, that was great.
You know what? I didn't even pay too much attention to AJ last year. I mean, it's interesting. Once a guy kind of leaves the team, AJ was always kind of a putz as far as I'm concerned, and you just kind of dealt with him while he's on your team, and you cheer for him to do well because you want your team to win. But then when he goes, you're just kind of I never there's no love lost there, and it's I vaguely from time to time I would recall checking in just to see what's he doing, and it wasn't it was kind of more of the same. Just I think the power numbers were down a little bit, but from the year prior, but yeah. What was he? It was going to be the same player. He wasn't going to strike out a lot. He was going to walk even less, and maybe he would give you a little bit of pop, but probably not. And he still wouldn't be able to throw Paul Konerko trying to steal second. So,
right. And that was the very first question that I was there for. And Hahn set the precedent. He's looking for long-time solutions. So the next part here, someone makes a reference to Adam Dunn and how he's a fullback. And the defense is blitzing, but you end up you hand off the ball to the fullback. He gets hit the line of scrimmage. He's down. It's unbearable to watch. The fan literally said that and then walked off. Didn't ask a question. So he left Rick Hahn hanging. So when
I'm imagining him just dropping the mic and walking away.
Right. So I'm gonna take your hat off and I'm gonna pretend I'm Rick Hahn, and then I want you to analyze what he's saying here. Okay. For Rick Hahn, for 3 months last year in June, July, and August, Adam Dunn was our most dangerous hitter. Part of what he's going to bring is going to take a bit of pressure off of Avisail Garcia and Jose Abreu, who are part of this long term and what we need for future success. He is going to be the left-handed bat that breaks up those righties, carries some of the load, and has been in those wars before. He's going to be a benefit for those young guys. Hazy, is this something that we can believe in, or is this just more propaganda from Rick Hahn on Adam Dunn?
propaganda, 100%. This reading between the lines on that, I see Adam Dunn, quote unquote, Adam Dunn is a guy that we have tried to move, we have been unable to move, and are stuck with. So, for a lack of anybody else who happens to go up to the plate and stand on the other side of it, he's going to be the guy that we send out there, on the off chance that he may be able to produce some value, and I may be able to get a high A reliever for him, plus, and send $13 million along to a contender by July 31st. That's all I get from that, is that we're going to, because we don't have anything better to do. We're just, we're stuck with him. We're going to stick him out. We're going to throw him out there and hope for the best. We're going to put him between our guys that we do hope are going to produce and will be a part of this team for the foreseeable future. And good luck to you. Good luck to you, big guy. Go have yourself a season.
So I'm going to make another prediction here.
Oh, here we go. All right. Bold prediction
time. I called the contract extension. Even though I don't agree with it, I called it. I think the White Sox.
You are the guy that said Tanaka was going to go to Seattle, right? You are that guy, right?
Yeah. I started off 1-1, but I'm 1 for 2.
All right.
I think the White Sox keep Adam Dunn with the hopes that he hits 25, 30 home runs, and as a free agent, they can pick up another draft pick if someone picks him up. What are your thoughts about that? It really hurts Adam. It really hurts Adam's chances getting signed.
I thought that compensation picks were I thought it was kind of a big picture thing over a course of years, not a single season. I'm probably wrong, but I mean, if I'm wrong and that's the case, then okay, let's go for it. But
I feel like you're trashing my theory already.
Well, it's not my theory.
You might be right. I'm gonna have to look that up.
If you want, I can just be a homer. I can say that's a great idea, Slider.
Yeah.
Let's do that, because I don't know any better. I don't know 100% for sure. But I mean, if you're right, then that's a fine idea. If I'm right, I don't think that's gonna work.
Right. All right. So for the next question, fan goes up. You are Robin Ventura now, Hazy.
Okay. All right.
Robin, 3 questions for you. What's your plan for left field? What's your plan for DH? What's your plan for closer? We already talked about the closer role, so you only have to answer 2. What's your plan for left field, and what's your plan for DH?
Left field? Yes. Assuming that Rick doesn't make any more moves between now and then, I'm going to be trotting Diane Viciedo and Alejandro Diaza out there, depending on playing righty-lefty matchups with them, and the same thing with Konerko and Dunn to answer your DH question. I think that it's the most efficient use of the roster as it's currently constructed, using the guys that I have available, and we'll hope for the best. I mean, we'll make some adjustments as the season goes on as necessary. Depending on the construction of the team as the season progresses, but as of if opening day was tomorrow, that would be how I would assemble the lineups.
All right, so that's pretty much right on target with Robin said. He went into a little bit as far as Paul Konerko, defending Paulie, and Robin is quoted saying, the guy has his mind wrapped around the role, and he's excited by it as far as being a mentor. I did it myself, and we've had quite a few conversations about it. It's a fun role knowing if you go into it. Okay. So, with Konerko being the mentor, Robin's already tried to prep Konerko that it can be kind of fun to sit around the bench and be a cheerleader. Which begs the question on why the hell do we bring back Paul Konerko? Don't we need to use that roster spot for someone else?
I will say this: I've been, from what I've seen, with Steverson's hitting camp, from a couple weeks ago, and Paulie being down there and working with the younger guys. From what I've been able to see so far, I've been pretty happy with Konerko's contribution in his willingness, to work with the young guys so far. I was pretty skeptical, and I remain skeptical that he's going to, fully embrace the position as the season goes on. But as of right now, from the small sample size that we've seen, video of him out there, walking around with the guys and inviting guys to stay with him, and there may or may not be hazing going on, in the basement of the palatial Arizona estate. We'll never know because we're not in there. We're just going to assume that there is, and it's really pretty creepy if you think about that. But we're not good. But we're not going there.
No, we're not.
What we're focusing on him helping out the young guys in a positive way, not in a creepy way. And so far, so good.
All right. To the next question. My favorite question. With the fielding problems and the base running problems, do you guys ever think about picking up Omar Vizquel? That is your question. You can either wear the Rick Hahn hat or the Robin Ventura hat, but you must answer that question.
Well, he only weighs about 160 pounds, so I do think I'd be able to pick him up pretty. No, I'm just kidding. Are we talking in a player capacity here or in a coaching capacity? What's the?
Well, yeah, we've got fielding problems and we've got base running problems. Do you think you guys could pick up Omar Vizquel to fix those problems?
He's pretty close to collecting Social Security at this point. I don't know if that's a good idea for him. I think that he should just stay that route and focus on raising his grandkids at this point, right? I mean, he's probably golfing and
obscure players. Anyone. That was the last player I would have thought of. Somebody bringing up on who we should sign. Omar Vizquel.
Oh man, he's pretty close to like the senior discount on coffee at McDonald's. He's probably in there at 7th. Well, then see, I mean, they've got the right idea. I think he's gonna make a great coach. He's one of the all-time greats as a defender. As a ball player in general. I mean, no doubt Hall of Famer, right? Omar Vizquel? Yeah, I mean, I don't know,
man. I really don't know.
You don't think so? He's been on a lot of good teams. I mean, obviously his numbers are padded by the fact that he played for he's played as long as most of us have been alive, but he back of the baseball card, off the top of my head, I mean that's a guy that I mean, not a first ballot guy, but I do think he's an eventual Hall of Famer guy. I think he's in that conversation.
Interesting.
He was on a lot of good teams over the years and played a lot of good baseball for them.
He's very good defensively. He was very good defensively for many years. So on to the next question here. Let me find a really good one here. All right. Let's bring up the question that kind of triggered as far as many articles on Fan Post. You are Robin Ventura. Easy. Robin, I love you as a...
Oh, I just got done being Robin Ventura.
I know. Robin,
Sorry,
I loved you as a player, and congrats on the extension. As a fan, I'm still trying to figure out your demeanor compared to Ozzy. I thought you were perfect in 2012, but last year as the wheels came off, quite frankly, I was thinking, does Robin have a pulse? So help me understand, going to 2014, are you the right guy for this team?
Real quick, 11-time Gold Glove winner, Omar Vizquel. Sorry.
Well, maybe we should sign him. Let's start this podcast over. Why we should sign Omar Vizquel?
Guy started his career in 1989. Good grief.
He has
1989.
His baseball career is longer than some of the Southside Sox fan posters.
I think he's older than some of the guys on. He's been playing longer than some of the guys that are on the White Sox have been alive. I don't know.
Well,
So
he's not
question,
playing anymore. But anyways, so
Well, you know what I
are
mean.
you the guy? Yeah. So we just debacled this question, but this is the question that I can't believe somebody phrased it this way. I mean, Larry and Kenville were trying to prep me that the Q&A can very much be like a wrestling match. Fans going up there with the power of the microphone. But I want to bring this question up because Ventura cuts off the guy and says, "I have a pulse, I swear." And then the fan responds back, "Well, Ozzy has a ring, and I'm just trying to figure out if you're the right guy for this team." Ventura doesn't respond to that. It's Hahn. Rick Hahn responds to this question, defending Ventura. I know you weren't there, Hazy, but if you could travel back in time and place yourself in attendance, and you hear this question being asked, and you don't see Ventura standing up for himself, it's Hahn. What are you thinking?
First of all, I'm thinking that this Uber conference that we're on just had a massive freak out, and it kind of sounds like you traveled through the polar vortex and went back in time yourself. There was some crazy stuff going on in these headphones, but
well, I'm sorry about that. So
to answer what I
for the viewers
to answer what I think your question was.
Yeah.
To answer what I think your question was, if I'm Rick Hahn, am I confident in my choice of Robin Ventura? I don't know. Based on our conversation earlier, no, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
The way he jumped to Ventura's defense leads me to believe that yes, that he's in his mind he's made the right call, and he feels he has the utmost confidence that this is the guy that's right for the White Sox right now, and he's got this extension, whatever it turns out to be. I mean, if it's only a 2-year extension, then you are kind of you're ending this right in the right frame of time where he will have one chance to kind of get a different manager in to hopefully complete his vision the way he sees it. But with that being said, I do think that that Rick Hahn thinks that Ventura is the right guy at the right time. So, the right time being right now. So,
gotcha. Okay.
And to answer for Robin, I think that Robin has really started. When he started, he was kind of wishy-washy and on the fence about what he wanted. Whether or not this was the right gig for him, he was going to give it a shot. It was going to be a pretty easy, excuse me, a pretty easy situation for him coming into a veteran-filled team. Really, he probably thought he'd be able to just come out, fill out the lineup card, make a few pitching changes, kick some dirt on an umpire every once in a while, and collect a paycheck. But I think that over time he's come to more and more enjoy the role, and almost kind of like Konerko now embracing the role. I think Ventura is kind of in the same position where he's embracing the idea of being a coach again, and really working with the young guys and trying to impart some of his knowledge and letting himself grow as a manager with the players that he's coaching. So that, yeah, I think the hope is that by the time this group is ready to contend, Robin will have kind of learned not only about the players and how to coach, but kind of about himself as well, and the kind of manager that he sees himself being.
I can go all day on that topic, on the sense of, and I guess Jack M, one of the posters, because Larry asked me that question, because I don't feel on the major league level you just take some guy off the street who never has had that experience before of being an assistant coach or managing the minors and put him in the role as far as a manager and see how well he does. Now, case in point, Mike Matheny did it, and he won the World Series in his first year. So there is an example of someone who had no managerial experience and won the whole thing. Fantastic. Was that luck? Was that a fluke? Not so sure, because the Cardinals have been very good. They were just back in the World Series. Because the point I made is 26 of the 30 managers today either have experience coaching in the minors or they have real experience. By real experience, I mean they were a former pitching coach, they were a third base coach, a first base coach, a bench coach prior to getting the gig as a manager. So 26 out of 30 managers today in baseball had that experience. Walt Weiss.
One of them's named Ned Yost.
Oh, yeah. And that's a topic for later on. But my fear is that Robin Ventura is the next Ned Yost. Ned has had 2 great seasons. Last season for the Kansas City Royals, winning 86 games, and the 2008 Milwaukee Brewers. The thing about it was he didn't finish the year with the Milwaukee Brewers. He got fired with 12 games left to go because Doug Melvin did not have the confidence that he was going to get that team into the playoffs after they had sacrificed quite a bit to pick up CC Sabathia. So that's my 2 cents on Ned Yost, and we'll chat about Ned Yost later on when the White Sox take on the Royals. But let's go on to the final topic here today. I cited a Dan Bernstein article at the beginning of the podcast. I want to go into, on Friday, opening day for SoxFest, Brooks Boyer, the vice president of marketing for the Chicago White Sox, was on Boris and Bernstein, 670 The Score. And if you would like to listen to that, if you go to borisandbernstein.com, it is the January 24th episode on the on-demand. It's the very first hour. I believe it starts around the 19th minute. And you can
That's correct.
hear the interview with Brooks Boyer. And the questions that Boris and Bernstein had was, Brooks, who is the Chicago White Sox fan? Who are they? Where they're coming from? Why do they come? And I know, Hazy, you and I both got a chance to listen as far as to that clip. And what are your thoughts as far as some of the things that Brooks Boyer touched on when it came to the demographic of the Chicago White Sox fan?
Well, it was. I mean, we use the word demographic, but I mean, it's really he went more into detail about kind of the where White Sox fans are, where the White Sox fan is located now, and he referenced the heat maps that they use when they're gathering information from where their season ticket buyers are coming from, where the online purchases for single game tickets are coming from, or the smaller packages, the 7-game packages, and so on and so forth, as well as the aftermarket tickets through StubHub. They track all of that. And he said he pointed out that aside from the traditional markets where the White Sox have strong footings on the south side and in the western suburbs and in the southern suburbs as well, he's seen that they're seeing a lot more. They're seeing an uptick in ticket sales in and around the Schaumburg area, kind of in those northwestern sort of suburbs up there as well. And truly, they really only see the drop off in the local area as you start to get into the northern parts of the city, the traditionally, past downtown, the traditionally Cubs dominated areas. So I thought that was interesting that the White Sox are becoming even more and more of a suburban team, which rolled into another part of his segment, talking about the issues that they have in getting in getting families out to the park as this team kind of becomes a more suburban, a team with larger suburban fan bases. That the number one issue that the team is dealing with is getting families afford to commit that block of time to traveling in from the suburbs to the park, and they have to make sure that the value proposition that they're offering to these fans is worth what becomes essentially after parking and traveling to and from the park. I'm coming from Northwest Indiana, so for me to go from my front door, from my driveway to Sox Park, depending, let's say it's just a Thursday night home game. Game starts at 7. I'm getting out of the office at 5, getting home. I have to be in the car by 5:15, 5:20 to know that I'm going to beat traffic, get parked in time, get into the stadium and get to my seats. Have time to get a bratwurst, a couple of hot dogs, a beer, some sodas, and some peanuts, and get in my seat in time to catch the first pitch. So that right there, it's almost 2 hours of commitment of my time. And there, I haven't even seen any baseball yet. Then you're talking about a 3-hour baseball game and another, hour and a half, getting out of the parking lot and getting home. So I do get his point that it is a tremendous commitment of time. So the White Sox, it falls on the White Sox then to ensure to me that not only, I know I'm going to see a baseball game, win or lose, that's part of the experience. But is, what Brooks Boyer was talking about is them wanting to ensure that, they've got the top quality food in the park, easy access to said food and to drinks. That when I'm at the park, if I'm choosing to experience other things, through my iPhone, or if I choose to bring my tablet to the park, that there are experiences there to be had as well. The activities between innings, how engaging is it for me outside of just the baseball game, and things like that. So that was one of the big parts of the interview that I took away from it, is that that they are, they're cognizant of the fact that they're selling more than just a baseball game, and they're doing so at comparatively speaking, a tremendous price point. I mean, I have personally, I have a wife in school, and I've got a 3-year-old and another one on the way. So taking advantage of some of the more economical, I guess you could say, options that the Sox are offering, be it the Sunday, the Sunday game packages with the parking and the cheaper tickets. That's definitely something that my family and I will take advantage of, outside of maybe the Friday night premium game, against the Cubs or against the Yankees, that quite honestly I'm priced out of. I have other things that my money is going to go towards, but those Sunday games are such a great deal, and when you get to the park, it really is a great experience for the diehard fan that's looking to improve their experience.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that, but that's why we have Sundays, the family day. $10 for parking, tickets are reduced. Brooks Boyer has a very difficult job. Other than the Chicago Fire, you can make the case that the White Sox are behind the Bears, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and the Cubs. They're the 5th team in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows the stadium deal. If they don't draw 2 million, they pay rent. They don't pay rent if they draw more than 2 million fans. Well, they haven't done that the last 2 years. And, this goes back to an argument that I know that I have made as far as analyzing, as far as Chicago White Sox, that win-loss record does make an impact, but it hasn't made an impact recently. The attendance has declined. And if you check the history books of the White Sox, winning season, losing season, winning season, losing season, winning season, losing season. This year should probably, if the trend continues, it'll be a winning season for the White Sox. They still may have difficulties drawing people in. They're not the only team in Chicago having a difficult time doing that. The Cubs are also suffering a dramatic decline in attendance for them. I mean, the Cubs are a team that routinely drew 3 million fans a year. Now they're drawing about 2.4, and that number is slipping. And they have what looks like to be an inevitable lawsuit between them, the rooftop owners, because of construction with Wrigley Field. It's going to be held up. All these new fancy things to, give it a new facelift for Wrigley is going to be delayed. And both teams right now look like they're going to be well below 500. So, Hazy, if you're Brooks Boyer and if you're also the Cubs, vice president of marketing, how do you prepare for another summer of bleak baseball where both teams are not very good and fans are just not showing up?
I don't think that will be a problem for the Cubs. The Cubs are always going to. The Cubs aren't going to have a problem getting to 2 million. 2 million people through the turnstile. They just aren't. They're, besides being a baseball team, they're also a tourist attraction with that park and with that aura that surrounds that team.
But 2.4 is pretty low for them.
But I mean, yes, but compared to what? Compared to, big picture, they're set up. I think that they're set up to absorb a couple seasons like this. I have faith in their management team. I guess you could. That they've taken this into account. That they knew that eventually they would hit a point. They would hit a terminator point where they would no longer be able to sustain the 3 million plus every season that they were bringing in, before they decided they were going to blow it all up. To the White Sox. Sorry, go ahead.
You know who outdrew the Cubs last year? The Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee Brewers drew 2.5 million people.
It's a nicer stadium.
Well, oh my gosh, it's a far nicer stadium.
I love that park.
with the Cubs drawing 2.4, we mentioned at the beginning of the show last year it can't get any worse. For Cubs, their situation is just nasty, and I don't know how many people is going to turn away from the game. I don't know if the rooftop owners are just going to say, no, we can't let anybody up here. That'd be dumb. They're going to be losing money. But here's the thing. It's very difficult to go see the Blackhawks right now. Why? Because they're winning. You want to go to a Bulls game? That's easy. Bears game, it's expensive, but you can find tickets. White Sox and Cubs, it's way easy to get tickets, and tickets are cheap, but nobody's going. And this is a direct correlation to how much the White Sox can spend. And even, I'm not sure about the Cubs, but Brooks Boyer, during the interview on Boers and Bernstein, if you like to listen to the clip, we're going to include the link in the fan post, so make sure you click on that. But
you're so thoughtful.
I know, thank you. The business model is revenue generated minus expenses equals team payroll. Very simple mathematical formula. In order for the White Sox to enhance the payroll, to find long-term solutions that can dramatically change the makeup of this team, they're going to need revenue. If you're only drawing 1.8, 1.9 million fans, how can you generate enough revenue to sustain a $100 million budget for a roster? That's a serious question. And, that really ties Rick Hahn's hands, because while we love Chris Sale's deal today, there's going to be a time that contract is going to expire. And if he continues the success that he has today, you can make an argument he's right up there with Clayton Kershaw, and Clayton Kershaw is getting $30 million a year. And somebody's going to be in Chris Sale's ear and say, Chris, you should get $20 million a year at least. And then the White Sox have to have that hard conversation of not being able to afford someone like Chris Sale because we do not have enough revenue generating.
Well, I don't think personally, there's no way. I mean, this team will never sign a pitcher to a $30 million contract. I mean, so even a $20 million contract. So you can. I think it's pretty safe to say that unless he wins 4 Cy Young awards between now and the end of his deal, and the White Sox win 2 or 3 World Championships where he's the World Series MVP 2 or 3 times, you're never going to see, like, after this deal is done, it's probably thanks for the memories, Chris. After at the end of this deal.
Yeah,
but,
let's not think about that though. That's painful,
right?
But I mean, it's the truth though. I mean, White Sox are seriously looking at that.
But to answer your question, Boyer actually talked about this in the interview where he brought up revenue per person being more important than the actual attendance number, and I think that kind of dials into what I was talking about before with the experience with the White Sox. When you go to the park, you're okay spending that extra money on the beer, on the merch, on the food, because it's a quality experience. In all, it's not. I mean, I hate to keep bringing up the Cubs because they're irrelevant to me, but every time I've ever been to that park, it's shitty beer and the food is just it's I get the same quality of food going to a high school football game. It's the same crap. It's the nachos with the vaguely cheesy cheese and the jalapenos in the cup. It's old style. It's not good. It's they know that they're getting the people into the park because of the park, because of the name on the front of the park, because of the ivy, because of the bleachers, because of the Harry Carey statue, all this other nonsense. It has nothing to do with the product once you get inside the stadium. Whereas at the Cell, it's different. You're getting an immersive experience with everything that you get inside. Once you're in, you don't regret that you can't bring a picnic basket inside, with sandwiches, because you're getting good stuff. No trip to US Cellular Field is complete for me without a delicious big bratwurst with the kraut and the onions and the brown mustard, and it's that's how I know I've arrived at the Cell, is because that smell, the smell of cooking tubed meat and onions hitting my nostrils as I walk the concourse. The smell of, I can smell it now, and it's making me crave that warm summer weather. It's a real tangible experience for me. It's not just, there's more to going to a White Sox game than just the baseball game, and I think that's what's going to help keep the White Sox afloat, in this troubling season that you're predicting.
Well, going to a baseball game is far superior than watching it from home on the television. At least that's my opinion. It can be very long, it can be very tiresome. Yeah, at the comforts of your home, in the world of DVR, you can pause it, you can do something else, you can come back and you can skip all the commercials, and you can drink beer, and you can make sausages at home. It's just, wow, you are explaining a fantastic experience, and I love going to White Sox games. I always have to make sure that we are, sitting by a lining kugel stand for my girlfriend, who loves to get her pink lemonade, the honey vice mixed with the berry vice. I'm sorry, it's a summer shanty mixed with the berry vice. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to correct you, Wisconsin man, but continue.
Yeah, so make sure I got that right. It is a fantastic experience. The food is great. You have Bacardi at the park, so if you don't want to tailgate, which, by the way, you can tailgate at US Cellular compared to Wrigley, you can go to Bacardi at the park, and then you can go into the stadium, and it's all fine and dandy. But the attendance, you would think it would help, but people still aren't going. So Brooks definitely has a tough job. I'm curious to see what the opening numbers are. Opening day will be very close to a sellout. 35,000, maybe 40,000. Then they have a day off, and then they have game number 2. And I'm curious to see how game number 2 was. Do you want to take a shot on what the attendance was for game 2 in 2013? I'm going to bring this up, but
probably somewhere in the 25,000 vicinity.
25,000.
That's my guess. It was probably 32 degrees and sleeting and icy conditions, and they probably had to put salt down between third base and home plate.
Weather is, and maybe that's why Miller Park is so successful.
I love watching that roof.
I know they have the roof. So you say 25,000.
That's my guess.
If I told you that you were 11,000 off, would you think you'd be above or below?
I would have to say low. I would, or no, high. I'm high. I would say it's 11,000 less, probably 14,000.
14,213. The next game, Thursday afternoon, 15,036.
See, it's already getting better. What are you complaining about?
Friday night, 15,312.
What was the game time temperature? You got to tell me the game time temperature.
I don't know what the game time. I'm not looking at that.
What was the dew point?
The dew point. But the point is, after opening day, it took the next 3 games for the White Sox to exceed the attendance of opening day. I understand what Brooks is saying, and you know what? The guy is right. Mathematically, economically, however you want to spin it, the dollars spent per fan is much more important than the amount of fans that go through the turnstile, because you can have 3 million fans come in, but if the majority of your fan base is mom, dad with 3 kids, and the money per spend over 5 people is extremely low, whereas Sox fans, it's you, me, and 3 other buddies going through, and it's 5 people paying for stuff rather than 2, that's going to make a significant difference. But I don't necessarily want to put White Sox, check White Sox fans in general. But at the same time, this team doesn't start winning. I'm going to keep an eye. That's one of the things that I'm keeping an eye in 2014 is how attendance is playing out. Because I think the White Sox could do a much better job of marketing. I know the team's not very good to be marketing, but they could just do a better job overall. Because right now, as far as the seasons pass, the winning, the losing, it hasn't mattered. It has declined ever since they have won the World Series. And maybe that's just a stigma of being a professional team in the city of Chicago. If you're winning, you're on top of the world, the city loves you. If you are losing or you are mediocre, who cares?
2014 White Sox. Drink the Kool-Aid.
Better than remade and recharged. Oh, good Lord. What a marketing slogan. But I think that's a great way to end the podcast there. So, this was fun. Again, just to recap, we went over as far as Robin Ventura. We went over the SoxFest. We got to play a game. Hazy, thank you so much for participating in that game. And also make sure to click through the links, the article that I was referencing from Dan Bernstein, the interview with Brooks Boyer, for Boers and Bernstein from 670 The Score. If you want to read the transcript, make sure you go to the fan post. It is SoxFest. Ventura and Hahn face the masses. Thanks to everyone that has gone there and wrecked that post. I greatly appreciate it. Also, wreck this post and put your comments down below. What you thought as far as the podcast, your points of view as far as Ventura's contract extension, SoxFest as far as the Q&A, and the Chicago White Sox marketing. Who are the White Sox fans, and how marketing and the amount of people that come to the games dramatically impacts the amount of payroll the White Sox have for 2014. So,
guys, please. I was going to say, please comment. So we know what you guys want to talk about, what you guys want to hear us talk about. Give us something to talk about. We're, big part of what we're doing here is for you guys. This was created as a venue for you guys to, another way for you guys to voice your thoughts and to have some control over what it is, what the discussion is here on Southside Sox. So please, jump in on the comments. Feel free to come talk. So it's not just Slider and I for an hour and a half every week.
I don't mind. I don't mind chatting with you. Don't mind chatting with you. But Hazy does make
no
a good
commercial
point.
breaks. Commercial breaks are for pussies.
Right. Hazy does make a good point. If you have something that you want us to chat about, make sure that you put in the chat box below. Also subscribe to our YouTube page where you can make sure that you get the latest episode. And if you want to check past episodes to get what our opinions were as far as past issues, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to be part of the Hangout, just ask. Make sure that you put a comment in the fan post, or you can send an email to us at sss.hangouts@gmail.com. So for Hazy Mania, I'm Slider Nelson. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Southside Sox Hangout, and tune in next week.